Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's live onboarding with Ledger. My name is Tim, and this week I'll be showing you how to set up a Ledger Nano X. Also, real quick, sorry about the last minute confusion. Some of you may notice that the link changed. Had some technical difficulties, and I had to redo the stream settings, and so that made me create a new link. So hopefully you're all able to get here to the new link and find this. Also we are going to be having one moderator in the chat. They will be helping out to answer your questions. I can see that there is already some questions coming in, which is great. My focus for today's video, though, is going to be to show up the complete setup process for the Nano X. However, if you did come here to get your questions answered, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and our moderator will answer them to the best of their ability. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the setup of the Nano X. All right, so I'm going to switch over here to this shot. Cool, we got video. We're good. All right, move this cable for a minute. Okay, let's do a quick unboxing. So full disclosure, you'll notice that there was no plastic on here. This is the same Nano X that we set up multiple times. And so we factory reset it to reset it up the following week. So just in case you're wondering, like, where's the plastic, or maybe there's not everything is inside the box or whatever, which you'll see here in a minute. That's the reason. But for all intents and purposes, this is a brand new Nano X. It has been factory reset back to factory settings, so it is ready to be set up with a brand new recovery phrase, which we will do today. So although your Nano X unpackaging may be a little bit different because you have to take out the plastic, this is still a brand new Nano X. Okay, let's move on from that. So we got so when you first unbox, you got right off the bat, you got your Nano X, or Nano S or Nano S Plus, whatever you are unboxing. And the setup process will be pretty much the same for all devices, although they do look a little bit different. But as far as Ledger Live goes, and the physical actions that you're taking, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, so we got our Nano X. Let's remove this paper cover, paper holder right here. Put that to the side. And then open it up. Looks like we got recovery sheets. We are down to our last recovery sheet for this box. We've used the other two that come with the box to set up this Nano prior. So yeah, we're gonna have to get some more of those recovery sheets, that's for sure. But today we'll be using this one. I'm going to set that down right there. We'll be using that. Also in the box, you've got this card right here that tells you to go to ledger.com/start, which will show you, we'll walk you through all the setup procedures, and it'll let you download Ledger Live, and then Ledger Live will kind of walk you through the rest. Set that to the side. Okay, we've got a getting started packet. Which kind of tell you how to get started with the Nano X, kind of how the buttons work, how to turn it on, just very basic actions to actually physically use your Nano X. We're gonna go and set that to the side because I'm just gonna be showing you all that stuff manually. Okay, we got some stickers. Set that to the side. And then just use, care, and regulatory statements. Just basically tell you how to care for your device. Keep it in a dry place, don't spill any water on it, etc., etc. All right, so let me go ahead and put that to the side. And then also in the box, you'll see that there is a USB cable. The Nano X is it has a USB-C port. You can see, maybe you can see it right there. So it's got the USB-C cable and then to USB-A. So if you do have like a newer Mac, I'm actually doing this recording on a newer Mac that does not have USB ports, you would need to have an adapter of some sort to be able to plug into that. But for today's video, I'm actually using a USB-C to USB-C cord that we already have, which this can be plugged directly into a newer Mac or even into a Windows. So if you do have a USB-C to USB-C cable, you can use that to connect your Nano directly. You don't have to use the provided cable. Although we do recommend using the provided cable. If you run into a connection error with the cable you're trying to use, try using the provided cable just in case there is an issue with the cable that you're trying to use, and you can troubleshoot that without having to get a replacement device right away. Okay, we'll put that to the side. Actually, you know what? There is one other cool thing in here that I always like to show. So if you lift this thing up right here, you'll see there's a little keychain right there that you can slip through your this hole right here of the Nano X on the end, and then you can like attach that to a necklace, or you can put a necklace straight through there. And wear it around your neck or put it on your keychain. One of my colleagues likes to keep all of his nanos on his keychain. He's got a keychain full of nanos, which is, I think, pretty cool. So we're gonna move that to the side now. All right, cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and turn this thing on and see what happens. Clean off the screen. Oh, and one other thing, actually, I just kind of cleaned up the screen. There was fingerprints on it from prior videos. However, if you do receive a Nano X, because we actually get quite a few tickets from people that are like, hey, yo, there's a fingerprint on my Nano, on the screen of my Nano. Is it safe to use? It wasn't tampered with or anything, was it? Which is a perfectly reasonable question to ask. However, it's important to keep in mind that these things are packaged by hand, by people. So if you do have a fingerprint on the screen of your Nano, it probably just means that someone in the factory accidentally smudged it or whatever. And it does not mean that there is anything wrong with your device in almost any case. Cool, so let's go ahead and power this thing on. I'm going to plug it in. However, the cool thing with the Nano X is it does have a battery in it. So you can actually, if you have enough battery life in your Nano X, you can actually power it on and fully set it up without ever connecting it to anything. Like you can do it fully offline. And vice versa. And if you don't, like you can see the battery monitor right there is kind of low. So I wouldn't want to risk trying to go through the whole setup process on this thing without having power connected. Because if it dies during the process, you'll have to start over, which is, a bit of an annoyance if you get like most of the way through it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, but you can also plug your Nano directly into a power source other than a computer. Like you can plug it right into a wall outlet if you want. And then that will provide power to it, but also keep it completely offline. So I always like to show that because these things, you can set these things up completely offline. You never have to have it connected to your computer for it to safely generate a recovery phrase for you. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do that today. We're actually, this cable is connected to a power source. We're not going to connect it to the computer. If you see here in Ledger Live, it says get started. And if we click on that, we can choose our Nano right here. So basically at this point, we have our Nano plugged in. It says, welcome to Ledger Nano X. We have Nano X selected in Ledger Live. We could set it up as a new device and it'll take us through a whole bunch of steps before actually it'll walk us through the entire setup process before getting to the actual genuine check phase step, which is actually the first time your Nano does actually connect to your computer to Ledger Live. But we're going to not do that, and we are going to fully set up the device without the help of Ledger Live, and then we're going to choose this option, already have a recovery phrase, because by then we're already going to have a recovery phrase. So I'm going to show you how that looks. Okay, so lift this up a little bit. So we got the welcome to Ledger Nano X. So you'll see that there are two buttons on this device. All the devices have two buttons. All the current devices have two buttons. You got left and right. So the left button right here, which is closest to the charging port and it's black on the Nano X, that is going to scroll you to the left, and the right button, the silver one, will scroll you to the right. So you go right, right once. It's going to tell you to download Ledger Live by going to ledger.com/start, which is the same thing that the little page said when we first unboxed it. And then right here, it's going to kind of walk you through how to navigate on the Nano X. Use both buttons to navigate. So left, right, and then make a selection. So that would be this right here. Press both buttons to select. And then to get to the settings menu in the control center, you want to hold both buttons down for a few seconds. I'm going to show you more about this here in a minute. So we've already got Ledger Live started. We don't need that. So now you'll see that we have this option here to set it up as a new device, or we can restore from recovery phrase. So any Nano can always be restored from any existing recovery phrase. It doesn't even have to be a 24-word recovery phrase. The Nano will always generate a 24-word recovery phrase, but it'll accept any valid recovery phrase of any length. And they come in 12, 15, 18, or 24 words in length. And so your Nano can accept any recovery phrase you might have if you did want to import an existing recovery phrase into your Nano to regain access to your accounts. But we're setting up for the first time today. We don't have a recovery phrase and we want to make new accounts. So we are going to set it up as a new device. And so to select this option, we are going to quickly tap both buttons. You don't want to hold them down for too long. I'll show you what happens. If you hold them down for too long, it just goes to this menu right here where it gives you the battery. You can close the control center or you can power off the device. You'll have more options after the device is set up, but for now, these are the only options you have because the device is not set up. This is the control center. And this is a pain point for a lot of users, a lot of new users. Because at first it is a little confusing potentially. So right now we want to exit the control center. So we're going to quickly tap both buttons. Boom, right there. We're going to exit the control center. So now instead of holding the both buttons down, we're going to quickly tap to make that selection. And you can see that now we are going to set up our PIN. This is the first step. So the PIN can be 4 to 8 digits in length. Definitely make it, I mean, you know, use your best judgment, but obviously the longer your PIN is going to be, the more secure it's going to be, the harder it is to guess. For this purpose, for this video, we're going to set it up as just 1, 1, 1, 1. And we're going to go, then you see that check mark right there. We're going to select that. And then now we have to confirm our PIN. And on this step, I'm going to show you another cool thing. So you see it already defaulted to 1 right there. So we're going to go 1. And now it's showing the little back X. That's one of the selections. We're going to go up to 1. And now it's showing a 4. So basically, my point is, you see how it changes each time. That is actually a security measure. It randomizes the selection that is shown for each, after you input each character. That way someone sitting across the room from you or someone sitting nearby can't count your button clicks to try to like guess your PIN. So it's just a clever, simple security measure to keep people from doing that. So if you're wondering, like, why does it randomly go to a random number like that? There is a purpose for that. Okay, we go 1, 1, 1, 1. We're going to confirm that PIN. So it let us move on. So we know we entered incorrectly. Now it's telling us to write down our recovery phrase. This is the most important part of the entire step, is your recovery phrase. Your PIN that we just set, that is, it is really just to unlock your device. That PIN that I just set up will have nothing to do with any of my actual accounts on the blockchain, any of my crypto accounts. It will only let me into this device. And so after we generate this recovery phrase, if I wanted to, I could import that recovery phrase into a different Nano with an entirely different PIN that's used to unlock that Nano, and it will still give me access to the exact same accounts. Your crypto accounts don't care what your Nano PIN is. Your crypto accounts only care that the person that's trying to sign the transaction has access to the private keys, which is what your recovery phrase is. So we're about to generate that right now. I won't burden you with too much more technical information on that. I just want to really hammer home how important the recovery phrase is, and kind of how unimportant the PIN is. Although the PIN is important because that does keep your device locked. So I don't want to say it's unimportant, but compared to your recovery phrase, your PIN doesn't really matter so much. Because if you ever did forget your PIN, you could simply just factory reset your Nano, re-import, set up a new PIN, re-import your existing recovery phrase back into your Nano, and instantly have access to your accounts again. So yeah, so let's move on. Let's go ahead and write down our recovery phrase. We're going to select that. We're going to scroll to the right. This is telling us your device will generate 24 words. They are your recovery phrase. So this is your recovery phrase that you're about to generate. Go back, go to the right. This is your only backup to restore your accounts if needed. I already touched on it a little bit, but I talked about how easy it is to import your recovery phrase that we're about to write down into a device to regain access to your accounts. Now, keep in mind that if anybody else has access to that recovery phrase, they could also do the same thing with zero resistance. There is no stopping anybody who gets their hands on your recovery phrase from accessing your accounts. So for that reason, it's really important to never store your recovery phrase online. Don't take a picture of it. Like after we write it down, don't take a picture of it. Store it on your phone. Don't enter your words into a password management software or notes or anything. because that then makes it vulnerable to malware, attackers, hackers, etc., who may be able to gain access to that information through your connected device. So really, it's simple, but it's also elegant, and it is foolproof. If you keep your recovery phrase offline, air gapped between your so basically never exposed to the internet in any way, it really is impossible for your assets to become compromised. And this is up to the user to keep their recovery phrase safe. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and continue. We're going to write it down in the correct order. We're going to touch more on that here in a minute. And I'm going to press both buttons to continue to get started. So right away, we got our first word. Grab my pen. And I'm going to do my best to kind of talk through some things while I do this. However, it is kind of hard to multitask during this step. But I'll do my best. I want you to be able to see everything. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, I'll just click with my right hand. Okay, so first word is come, C-O-M-E. Heavy. Engine. Now note that it did say make sure you write them down in the correct order, and you will see that these are numbered, and it gives you the number, right word number 3, engine, which I did right here in number 3. This is really important because if you were to want to regain access to your accounts, let's say that your Nano were to get factory reset while you were at some point, which can happen, like maybe you accidentally enter your PIN in incorrectly 3 times, which is another security feature of the Nano. If the PIN is entered in incorrectly 3 times, it will factory reset on you, and there's no way to stop that from happening. So if that were to ever happen, or someone were to, try to gain access to your Nano and when you weren't around and they factory resetted it, or for whatever reason, and you go to re-input your recovery phrase into your Nano to gain access to your accounts, if they're not in the correct order, like let's say you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of 1, 2, 3, or you wrote them down in the wrong order, then it will not give you access to your accounts. At that point, it'll be a completely different recovery phrase that will drive completely different accounts, and you won't have access. So make sure that you write them down in the correct order. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're writing down your words is to try to write as legibly as possible. When I first started doing these videos, I actually hadn't handwritten anything in a long time. I guess in today's world, that's becoming less and less needed to be handwriting things in this digital age that we live in. But as a result, my writing was getting super messy, and I started doing these videos, and I realized that could be a problem because if I'm writing down a recovery phrase and my handwriting is super messy, then maybe a year from now, if I wanted to regain access to those accounts, I lose my Nano and I have to buy a new Nano, but I can't read my own writing. Well, then that's just as devastating as not having them in the right order, because then I wouldn't know what words to enter in, and it wouldn't give me access to my accounts. You want to make sure that you, for sure, write down the same word that is given to you, and make sure that you can actually read. That was a little messy right there. I'm going to go ahead and try to fix that. Or like an S for blast. 19 is gadget. A D G. I'm going to mess that up. Note. Horse. Scorpion. Omit. And all right, cool. So now we got all 24 words written down. And now is another fun part of the process. We won't need this pen anymore. We're going to scroll to the right. So now you're given the option. Let me hold this up so you can kind of see what it says. So you can scroll to the left and you can re-verify your words if you want. Here's all my words. I'm scrolling. Or if you're pretty confident, like I am, that you wrote them down correctly, you still will need to verify them, but you can go right to that step. So you can press both buttons to continue. And again, that's a quick tap, not a long press. Quick tap. All right, confirm your recovery phrase, quick tap. All right, so now we made this a little bit easier with more recent UI fixes. You used to have to actually enter in each of your words, but now it just gives you some words to choose from, and you just have to scroll until you find the right word. So confirm word number 1. There we go. Word number 2 is heavy. We're gonna scroll. There it is. Word number 3 is engine. There it is. It just defaulted on it randomly. Letter. There we go. February. Teen. And I'm just going to go through and do this real quick. See that we entered in all 24 words, and we got to this screen where it says your recovery phrase is set. Keep it in a secure place. So that may be different for everybody depending on what your situation is. A secure place, to be more specific about what that means, this is a place that is offline. I already kind of touched on it earlier. But you know, I'm actually going to switch the views here in a minute after we get done with this process, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. So let's just continue for now. All right, so I'm gonna scroll to the right. It's just reiterating if your recovery phrase is lost, stolen, or forgotten, and then you will be locked out of your accounts. Like there is no recourse for that. There's nobody that you can call to help you out. Like if you were to lose your recovery phrase and not have your nano anymore. That's it. Like that crypto is in those accounts, locked by those private keys, and only those private keys can access them at that point. Okay, so never share it with anyone, and Ledger will never ask you for it. Never, ever. Then we press both buttons to continue right here. You'll see it's processing. Right now, what it's doing is it's committing that recovery phrase to memory. So that is been saved on the secure element chip. And now at this point, since we've gotten to this point, that recovery phrase is now impossible to extract from this nano. Not even you as a user with access to Nano can now access that recovery phrase. It is locked away. So if you get to this point and your only copy will be the words you wrote down right there. If you, for whatever reason, get to this step and then you realize you made a mistake, or you think that your writing's messy and you can't really tell if it was the right word, but you did muddle your way through all this, then honestly, the best thing to do, if you're not absolutely certain that your recovery phrase is correct and is accurate, there's a couple things you can do. You can use an app to check the recovery phrase, and you'll get a yes or no whether that's the right recovery phrase. Or you can just start over from the beginning and generate a new recovery phrase. But you want to just make sure that you have it written down legibly. We're going to go here. So then now, after this, you actually have to scroll to the right and go to dashboard. We actually get quite a few tickets from people that are like, hey, yeah, I set up my Nano. It said processing, it's good to go, but now it just won't do anything. So you actually do have to go here and now go to the dashboard. So we'll tap both buttons, and there's the dashboard. Go ahead and set this down for a minute. I'm going to switch views. Hello. So we just wrote down our 24 words, and they are completely offline. Well, they're not. This 24-word recovery phrase is totally exposed to the internet, which is why I'm not going to send any money to this, any accounts. I'm not even going to create accounts with this. In today's video, I'm actually going to use a different Nano with a different recovery phrase to show you some other stuff in Ledger Live. And it looks like we're still doing good on time, so it looks like I'll be able to do that. So make sure you keep your recovery phrase completely offline, whether that is going to be in a safe or a lockbox or even a safety deposit box, depending on where you live and whether you have a bank that you trust. The point is there is a right or wrong way to do it. As far as keeping it offline, there is no right or wrong way to do that as long as it's a thing that makes the most sense to you. Like maybe you live in an area where there are no good banks that you can trust, and like home break-ins happen a lot. Maybe it's best to honestly like engrave your words in steel and bury them in the ground. Maybe it's best to put them in a big safe that you have in your garage. Like maybe it's best to send it to like a loved one, like your parents or something who do have a better way to store. Like maybe they have a good safe or something. Like whatever works for you. The key thing to remember, the only wrong thing to do is to digitize these in any way. So like flashing it in front of a webcam on a live stream, for instance, like this recovery phrase, I would never put funds on this recovery phrase because I mean, anybody can access it. Like anyone who watches this video can access the accounts that are generated from this recovery phrase. So this is now going to be a dummy set that we're going to just reset the nano after this and not use. But for your own personal, make sure it's completely offline. All right. Let's go and show you some cool stuff in Ledger Live now, since we have some additional time. And actually, I misspoke. I actually am going to add an account using this nano. I'm just not going to load any funds onto it because I want to show you how you can manage multiple devices in Ledger Live. So let's switch back to the big monitor. So we've got our nano here. We are on the dashboard. It's still unlocked. You can see there's no apps. We have this option here to install apps. And then also this control center. These are actually just here to tell you what to do if you want to do these actions. They don't actually perform the actions. Otherwise, it would just be a blank screen right now when users logged in with absolutely no direction on what to do. So if you go to apps, it'll say use the manager in Ledger Live to install apps and more. And your only other option is to go back to the dashboard. Similarly, Control Center, you click on that, it's going to tell you how to get to the Control Center, but it's not going to actually take you there. Again, to get to the Control Center, you hold both buttons down, long hold, and then now the device is set up, you'll see that we can get into the settings menu as well. We have some other options. Because it's a Nano X, this has Bluetooth capability, so we have a device name there, and we have Bluetooth. So we could actually connect to our phone now via Bluetooth if we wanted to. We're not going to do that in today's video. Today's video, we're just going to stick to the desktop version. I'm going to go ahead and set that down. And then we're going to go over here to Ledger Live. So we don't need to set up our Nano X because we have already done that. And we've already gone through all those steps. And yes, we already have a recovery phrase, and it is stored in a safe place. So I'm going to go to connect your Nano X. That's what we want to do. All right, so this is a pretty important step. This is actually the very first time that Ledger Live is going to communicate with your Nano. And so what happens during the genuine check process is Ledger Live connects to your Nano. It forms a secure connection, which we're going to have to authorize on the Nano. Nothing can happen on this Nano without the user's permission, including Ledger Live. So we are going to check the Nano, and it's going to make sure that the firmware, which is the operating system, you'll often hear some people will call it firmware, some people will call it OS or operating system. It's the same thing. Your firmware is the operating system that runs this device. So this is going to check that and make sure that it hasn't been tampered with in any way. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Oh, that's right. You can actually skip that step. You see right here, it says allow Ledger Manager on there. I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I don't know if you caught that, but I actually hit continue while it was doing that, and it lets you actually move past that step. But I did allow Ledger Manager, so let's see. It should let us into the My Ledger tab. Let's see what happens. All right, cool. Yep, it already did. So yeah, so if we were to disconnect our Nano and then reconnect it, we would have to redo the genuine check every time you get into the My Ledger tab. This is a security feature to make sure that every time it's to prevent even the slightest possibility of being able to install apps or manage a Nano that has firmware that's been tampered with. So basically, if you ever want to install a Nano app or do anything, make any change to your Nano, you have to do it from the My Ledger tab, and you have to verify the firmware first. This is actually a key part of the security of how the Nanos operate. So for today's video, I think that I want to create an Ethereum account. So if I want to create an Ethereum account, that means that I need the Ethereum application so that my device is able to communicate with the blockchain. Now, real quick before I do that, look up here. You'll see this orange banner at the top. Note that there is a firmware update available for this Nano to firmware version 2.1.0. I definitely recommend always updating the firmware. Make that the very first step you do. Because if your firmware does fall too far out of date on your Nano, eventually you'll get to the point where it can't connect, or you'll have issues connecting, you'll have issues doing anything really. So you want to keep your device updated. But because this is only one firmware update behind, I actually want to keep this Nano on firmware version 2.0.2. That way that I can use it as an example for future videos to show people. But if this was my actual Nano, I keep all my own devices always up to date. It's best practice for that. For today's video, we're going to install the Ethereum. In fact, I actually hope we do get some error messages during this demonstration so I can kind of show you guys what that might look like. So we're going to install the Ethereum application. And in a minute, you'll see on the screen, nice loading bar on the screen of the Nano. It's also loading right here. Okay, so now we've got this Nano app. You'll see that now, in addition to the install app and the control center widget, we also have this Ethereum widget that's just hanging out there with the little Ethereum symbol right there. So if you look down right here, you will see that there's this option to add account. And so this is actually a pretty confusing topic for a lot of new users. When you they'll add their app, the applicable app, whatever blockchain they want to interact with, whatever account they want to create, and they'll be like, I already added the app. How come I can't load? Like how do I send my ETH to my ETH account now? I've already got the app. And so it's important to understand that the Nano app is actually it just gives your device the tools that it needs to interact with that blockchain and to derive accounts for that blockchain. But your accounts are actually derived straight from your recovery phrase. The Nano app doesn't really have anything to do with your actual account. It just helps your Nano create that account in Ledger Live. It helps Ledger Live create that account in its interface, but it's actually not. So that's why it's perfectly safe. Like I can add an Ethereum account now, and we're going to open up the Ethereum app to do that. And it's going to synchronize. Right now, it's synchronizing. It's all happening within the device. It is using the private keys in the device in conjunction with the Ethereum app to derive the accounts that can be made from those private keys. And it's only going to share the public wallet address with Ledger Live. Ledger Live never has access to private keys of any account that's added into it. So we're going to add the account. We're going to do ETHX because of the Nano X. It's just kind of how I name my accounts. You can name it whatever you would like. Now we have this account. So now at this point, we've got this account right now. I can go to the My Ledger tab and I can uninstall the Ethereum application, no problem. It won't have any impact on that account that I just added. However, if I wanted to go back and interact with this account, I would have to reinstall the Ethereum app. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of users will, let's switch back here. A lot of users are using the Nano S. Let me pull one up here real quick for you from my Nano bag. So a lot of users are still using the Nano S, which is still a perfectly functional device. However, it does have memory limitations and more limited, like it seems like every month it becomes more and more. It has the same space on it, but the apps are getting bigger. As time goes by and changes are made, updates, new features added to these Nano apps to be able to continue interacting with the blockchain, it adds data to the apps and it makes them bigger. And so the Nano S was made in a time where the Nano apps were pretty small, so you could fit the Nano apps that you needed onto it. Now because things have escalated so much and grown so much within the crypto space, there's some apps that won't even fit on the Nano S. Like I believe the Avalanche app, perhaps Cardano. I'd have to look at it and plug this thing in. We're not going to do that in today's video, but just know that if you are using the Nano S and you're running into this memory limitation, you can just take off the apps you're not currently using, load on the ones you want, and do whatever you got to do, and you can just keep bouncing around like that without having any impact on your accounts, and no impact on the security of your accounts either. However, it is kind of a pain, which is why personally I've been using the Nano S Plus and the Nano X. But I got nothing against the Nano S. It's a fantastic device. Okay, cool. So we are going to now go back to the accounts tab, and you see we have this account right here. So if I wanted to receive funds, oh, I am still on my face. Let's go back to this shot. Here we go. So if you want to actually receive funds in your account, I will go ahead and actually let the flow do everything because, man, Ledger Live has come a long way since I first started using it several years ago. Our developer team has really added some cool features. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you click on ETH, your account, you go to receive, you go to continue. So basically it's gonna tell you to open up the ETH app right there. Before it used to just error out. It's one of the things I was talking about. Things are becoming more automated. So now you can verify your address. So you'll see right here, this is the wallet address for my ETH account. So this is the receive address. It's also called the public wallet address. This is actually the only information that Ledger Live has. And with this wallet address, you can receive funds and you can view the assets stored in that account. So if I were to copy this receive address right here by clicking on this button, I could then go to Etherscan. I can paste it in here. And I can see everything in this account. This is a public website. This is a public block explorer for ETH. Obviously, this account does not have anything in it. So it's zero balance of ETH, no tokens, no nothing, no transaction history. However, I'm going to show you some other stuff here in a minute to kind of really hammer home what I'm talking about. So at this point, you could copy this. So if you wanted to receive ETH into your account, you would copy this address, and then you would want to verify it on the screen of your Nano to make sure that it's the same information. One thing to remember is your Nano is the ultimate source of truth. So what is on the screen of your Nano is the actual data, the actual account that you are generating. So make sure that the information you copy is an exact match to the information displayed on your screen, and you'll have no issues. So let's scroll to the right. We're going to approve that. It's a good wallet address, and we're going to be done. All right. So now I am going to go back to the accounts, and I want to actually do something different today. I want to unplug this Nano. It is fully set up, and it's got its own recovery phrase. I'm going to power it off. I'm going to close it, and I'm just going to set it down right there. And I'm going to grab one of my work Nanos, my Nano S Plus that I use. You may have seen me use it in other videos. I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to pull it back, and I'm going to put in my PIN. This one does have funds in it, so I definitely want to keep the PIN secret. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and find the Ethereum app. Open that up. I set that down. I'm going to add a different account from a different Nano. Now, remember, this Nano has a completely different recovery phrase than this Nano, which means that it's going to derive completely different accounts. So let's see what happens when I add an account now with this Nano plugged in. Ethereum. Continue. Okay, it's synchronizing with this unique recovery phrase. Okay, and you can see that I have a account Ethereum 1. I'm going to rename that ETH-S Plus because this is my S Plus. And you'll see that there's a balance of ETH. One other interesting thing that you may notice is that it's giving me the option to add another ETH account, whereas when I created the one with the Nano X, did not give me that option to add another ETH account. The reason is because technically, and not even tech, it's just the way it works, an infinite number of wallet addresses can be generated from any given seed phrase. So you can actually add as many ETH accounts into Ledger Live without changing your recovery phrase. They will all be tied to the same recovery phrase. So they'll still have the same master private key. However, it'll be different public wallet address, so you can split your funds up and do a lot of really interesting things that way. It can get confusing if you do that, so be careful if you start messing around with that. Make sure you keep all your accounts named, labeled properly. That way, you know what you're doing, because it can be really hard to help people fix that situation, because we can't ask for your recovery phrase, so we can basically just kind of ask you questions, deduce what might have happened, and then like give you advice on how you may fix it. So make sure you keep all that straight. We're not going to add our second ETH account. There's nothing in it. However, if we did add the second ETH account in Ledger Live, and if we did send some ETH to that account, we would then be able to add the third account. And this is just a quirk with Ledger Live. This is just to keep things like nice and user friendly. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Someone just came in with a request asking me to show you guys some stuff. So I'm gonna show you how to do that here in a minute. Okay, so we've got so basically you can add one ETH account at a time, one account in general at a time, and then you'll be able to add the next account after that initial account is funded. So if I were to add ETH2, send some funds to it, it'll let me add ETH3. Send some funds to that, it'll let me add ETH4, and so on and so forth. So for today, we're just going to add ETH, the first ETH account for this. Now you'll see that we have two different ETH accounts from different nanos. We've got the Nano S Plus. Oh, dude, again. All right, let me switch back. So we got the ETH S Plus and the ETH X right here accounts. We got the Nano S Plus plugged in. Let's see what happens if we try to access the Nano X. We're going to try to generate the receive address for the Nano X using the Nano S Plus. We're going to see what happens. And of course, we're not allowed to. It says something went wrong. Please check that your hardware wallet is set up with the recovery phrase or passphrase associated to the selected account. So you'll get this error message anytime you try to access an account with a device that does not have the correct recovery phrase. So if you ever do get this error message, it's either because you are using the wrong device or because the recovery phrase in your device has been changed at some point. Nothing else will throw that error message. All right, so it was requested that I show users how to open up a ticket from our support center. So I am going to do that right now. So we're going to go to support.ledger.com. Okay. Yep, we got some exciting stuff happening with Tron. Tron Stake 2.0 is being released. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but if you are a Tron user, then know that there are changes to the Tron network coming. So to open up a ticket, you click on this purple Contact Us button in the bottom at support.ledger.com, which will open up the chatbot widget. You go New Conversation. So you'll see that there's some options that you can pick for your issue. If you go through these options and you don't see your issue, that's okay. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. You can still get connected to an agent. So you go, so I'm just going to do transactions as a sample. And then, okay, let's say in this hypothetical situation, I'm trying to get some Bitcoin to my Nano, my Ledger Live. So receive to Ledger, submit. Transaction version not supported. That might be helpful. So maybe I'd want to go to this article and see if maybe that answers my question. But for today's purposes, to actually submit but if you do say yes on that, then it'll assume that it fixed your problem and it won't let you proceed. So I'm going to click no. Did not help. And then which crypto asset are we talking about? We're talking about Bitcoin. Again, if your coin is not here, you just hit other and then type in, whatever, or just click whatever to get past it, and then clarify it during the next steps. So then now it's saying, is this helpful? We're still going to say no. Nope, I still want to talk to an agent. Okay, do you have the transaction ID? Nope, I don't. I don't know what that is. Okay. Oh, so it looks like we do have live chat agents available. So this button is available right now. So if you want to talk to someone right now, over live chat, over instant messaging, you can do live chat and get connected to one of us. Or if you don't really have time, you're at work, you're on the go, whatever, you can just submit an email and we'll respond to you as soon as we can. And that's basically how you do it. So go email, it'll request your email. You enter in a good email, tim@ledger.com. I'm just going to go ahead and not do that then. But once you hit submit, then it'll submit the ticket. I don't want to clog up our system with unnecessary tickets. So we're going to go ahead and go back. And that's basically it. That's how you submit a ticket through our help center. And I hope that's helpful. All right, cool. So now I think we still have about 10 minutes. I want to kind of show you some cool, and the reason I added that ETH account was so that I can show you some other features in the Discover tab, some things that you can connect to, like some new stuff that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of yet. So let me switch back to here. Go to the Discover tab. This is really cool. This is a brand new feature, the Stater Polygon. This will actually let you stake your Matic and earn rewards straight through Ledger Live through this DApp right here. Previously, you actually had to connect your Nano to the Polygon web wallet in order to staking.polygon.technology. And that allowed you to stake your Polygon through the web app. But now we have integrated a DApp to do it right from Ledger Live, which is super, super cool. So let's click on that. Let's check it out. I haven't actually really played with this, so this is actually kind of cool. All right, cool. So yeah, so let's connect our wallet. Okay, we got the wallet connected. I don't have any Matic on this wallet, unfortunately, in my ETH account. So one thing about actually, I want to show you something really cool here in a minute. One thing that's about Polygon that is maybe not like widely known is that Polygon can actually only be staked from the Ethereum blockchain. So you'd have to stake your Matic tokens, your ERC20 Matic tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. And I don't actually have any Matic tokens, so I can't stake. I've got like 0 Matic, but if you did have your balance of Matic on ETH, then you'd be able to stake it right here, and earn. It looks like 4.7%-ish APY. This is probably a float. This is an average. So this will be a floating rate depending on what the current rate is. But I actually do have Polygon connected to this Nano and this account on the Polygon blockchain. So I'm going to add my Polygon account. Okay, I'm gonna open that up. Open that up by pressing both buttons. Okay. We're gonna call this account Matic-S Plus. Always keeping it straight. And as you can see, there are 37 Matic in this account. Back here. Oh, we already showed you that one. All right, so let us see what else we got here. There's also another app that I want to show you guys. So there's been like recent synchronization errors with Ledger Live where it's not showing your some users. It doesn't affect everyone. In fact, it's not even affecting me on my own personal Ledger Live. It's kind of intermittent, but some users are not able to see their ERC20 tokens in either their ETH or their Polygon wallets. And if that ever happens, then you can come here. So basically, to kind of reiterate on something I touched on earlier, your crypto is not actually stored in Ledger. Like this, you see that you may be a little confused by what I did, where I connected a different Nano and then added these accounts that already had funds in them. Now I could remove those accounts from this Ledger Live. I can connect this Nano to any Ledger Live on any computer, and I can add these accounts in or remove them. The crypto does not exist in Ledger Live. The crypto technically does not even exist in your Nano. The crypto exists only on the blockchain. Your Nano contains the private keys that gives access to those accounts on the blockchain. This is separate from anything else. It's its own entity, and you use the internet channels to connect to it, and use your private keys to authorize transactions and adding those accounts to wallet software such as Ledger Live. So that's why it's perfectly safe to add accounts, remove accounts, as long as you make sure that you never change the recovery phrase inside your Nano. Then you'll always be able to regain access to your accounts. And furthermore, if you ever see any weird synchronization errors with Ledger Live. Like here, let me show you. Like let's say that I know that this account has 2 link in it. Chainlink right here, this token, and I know that I have this ETH right here. Let's say one day I open up Ledger Live and all of a sudden and this token is gone. It no longer shows my link. Well, I can go like this. I can generate my receive address and I can be like, hang on a second, Ledger Live. I know that I have 2 link in this account. I'm gonna generate my receive address. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna go to Etherscan, which I pulled up earlier. Here's the empty account that I just created. Let's search this account. And you can see that it's got my balance. It actually has way more decimals here on Etherscan because it's the complete balance straight from the blockchain. You can see it's got my token, my Chainlink right here. So now I know for a fact this account does hold my link and my ETH. So if Ledger Live is having that issue, I can just real quick approve that address to get out of this screen. I can maybe try clearing my cache. I can go up here to the settings menu. I can go to help, clear cache, and force my accounts to sync back up with the blockchain. However, and most time this does work. Most time this will work. However, if you are still having the issue and it's not working, it could be a more direct issue with Ledger Live itself, where Ledger Live is just not able to temporarily able to communicate with the blockchain. Well, your crypto is safe. Like it's not in Ledger Live. It's just, it can be a little alarming because you don't see it. But if you know how to use the tools to verify, then it dispels so much fear. So I just showed you how to use Etherscan, but there's actually a tool built into Ledger Live. If you don't feel comfortable, using a block explorer, you're not familiar with that. You can just go right into Ledger Live. You can go here to the Discover tab, scroll down, find the Zerion app, click on that, continue. And then it's going to automatically detect your accounts. You can change the account you want to check, but this is going to tell me everything that's in my account. This is pulling in. This is a different using a different channel than the accounts and portfolio tab. So this is using the Zerion app, which is technically outside of Ledger Live, to also view your assets. And so you can cross-reference through the Zerion app with what you see in your account in Ledger Live. And so, yeah, so I'm going to switch here to the Ethereum network. So you can see that I actually have assets on Ethereum, Arbitrum, and Polygon, all tied to this recovery phrase. I can view all of that. Right here on Arbitrum, I've got a little bit of ETH, and then I've got a little bit of this GMX token that I just randomly swapped into for a demonstration video. And then we got Polygon network. You can see I've got a little bit of DAI. I've got some Polygon. Assets are secure. Go Ethereum, and then there's my Chainlink right there, and there's my ETH, and then, or you can just view everything, all networks, everything tied to this recovery phrase on all networks for this for these ETH accounts. It's all right there, all the assets. Let's see, back. So yeah, I just want to show you a couple cool things. We are getting pretty low on time now. Maybe I'll go in and see how the questions have been going. Huge shout out to our moderator. Thank you so much for hopping in. I will say it was totally last minute today. So special thank you for jumping in and just handling this and answering people's questions. Let's see. Yeah, looks like there are some really good discussions going on. Let's see. So we got Mudkit Fan is asking Ledger, can you show how to add BTC account? Because there's 2 or 3 options. Yeah. Let's go through that. Let's do that real quick. Back to the big monitor. Go to accounts. Let's go to add account. Ooh, this is actually interesting. Let's do it from this nano that we just set up, because this nano does not have the BTC app installed yet. So let's see what happens if we just try to add it. This one is 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, we're in. No Bitcoin app installed. Let's see what happens when we try to add a Bitcoin account. Okay, it already knows we don't have it. Checking app dependencies. So we disconnected it. So we want to allow Ledger Manager, which will allow it to connect via the manager to install the Bitcoin app. Nothing can ever be loaded onto this Nano without the user's permission. So we just had to give it permission to do that. So now it's automatically loading the Bitcoin app. I love this feature. You used to just get an error message where it's like, yep, something's wrong, contact Ledger support, but now it just handles it for you. Okay. It wants us to open the Bitcoin app, which we will gladly do. Okay. Bitcoin can usually take a minute to synchronize, a little bit longer than some other ones. All right, so this is what you're talking about. So right now you'll see that so far it's got native SegWit. It's still synchronizing. So Bitcoin has 4 different networks that are all part of the Bitcoin network. So we're going to show all address types. So you see there's legacy, SegWit, Taproot, and native SegWit. We always default on native SegWit, and that is the account type that we recommend to add into Ledger Live. It honestly doesn't really matter. It does for some reasons. Let me switch back so I can talk to you directly on this. So basically, all the different Bitcoin networks, they're not different. They're the same network. It's just different types of account creation, and so they're all compatible with each other. You can send Bitcoin from any type of Bitcoin account to another. It's always going to be okay on the Bitcoin blockchain, but with some exchanges, they won't accept certain types of Bitcoin addresses. So we're going to add native SegWit, and we're also going to add legacy. We'll just add 2 different types of Bitcoin accounts in here so I can show you what I'm talking about. So we have the Bitcoin account. We got the native SegWit here. We generate the receive address for that. And you'll see that it starts with BC1. So that's a standard for native SegWit and Taproot accounts. They're always going to start with BC1. So then you'd be able to copy this. You'd be able to send Bitcoin to this wallet address. We're going to go ahead and approve that. We're done. We're done here. Go back to the accounts. We're going to go to legacy, and we'll generate our legacy address. It's going to be completely different. It's going to start with, I believe, a 3, or that may be, oh no, 1, because it's a legacy. So SegWit starts with a 3. So if your Bitcoin address starts with a 1, you'll know that it's from a legacy account. So like if you'd be able to send like Bitcoin from your legacy account to your native SegWit account, but the exchange may not accept this. Like the exchange may be like invalid Bitcoin address, and that's just because they have their own internal rules. Like we can only send to BC1 addresses or whatever. So it's best to just make a native SegWit account. And depending on how things go with that whole time I was on my face. I keep forgetting to do that. Sorry about that. Either way, legacy starts with 1, native SegWit BC1. You still got all the information. So I hope that was helpful. See, so I apologize. I only have a few more minutes, so I don't want to skip anyone's questions, but I will kind of cherry pick here because I can only answer a couple more. But if you do have questions that you need answered and you don't feel like opening a support ticket, you're having issues with it, head over to our AMAs that we do. Our team, we do one every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that entire session is just devoted to answering questions. And so far, we've been able to get through everyone's questions. But because this is the live onboarding, I might not be able to get to everybody. I do apologize in advance for that. Let's see. So Dat Orange Kid is asking, is there a way to add the Shiba Inu coin to the ledger? Yeah, definitely. So Shiba Inu is an ERC20 token that's fully supported by Ledger Live. You won't need to add your own account for Shiba Inu. You actually send your SHIB directly to your ETH wallet address. So you'll go through those same steps to generate your Ethereum wallet address. Create an Ethereum account. You'll need some Ethereum in that account to pay network transaction fees, but then you can actually send your Shiba directly to that wallet address. And here, I'll switch real quick, show you. And it'll show up just like these other tokens that you see right here. So like, it'll do that automatically. You don't have to create the account. You don't have to do anything like that. Okay, so Mudkip fans following up with another question. Will the fees be the same if I send from centralized exchange to any type? And so it's just better to use a native SegWit for, I mean, yeah. The fees are going to be the same depending on whatever account you. You're still paying the miners on the Bitcoin network, and they're going to charge what they're going to charge. So the fee is going to be the same. The only issue you may run into is just compatibility with the exchange. It may give you like an error message. It may give you some grief. And if you do have a legacy account already in Ledger Live, and you've been using it, but now you do run into that issue, you could just create a native SegWit account right in Ledger Live and send your BTC to that, and then consolidate it in whatever account you want from there. But yeah, I just always go with native SegWit. Yeah, it's tried and true. It's been around for a little bit. Although Taproot may gain more prominence in the future depending on where things go with the inscriptions and ordinals and stuff. But for now, native SegWit is just fine. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that basically is all the time I have today, unfortunately, on this very rainy Friday afternoon. But definitely come back by on Wednesdays to the AMA if you have more questions you want answered. I went through the flow to show how to open up a sport ticket. That is a pretty hot topic. I know no one likes dealing with a chat bot. I totally understand. You just want to talk to a person. I'm the same way. Like, it's funny when I'm at work, I'm like, oh man, what's wrong with the chat bot? It's great. But then when I'm personally having to like contact customer support, I'm like, stupid chat bot. So I totally understand. We totally understand. So if you just want to get connect to a person and talk to a person, just do your best, just answer the questions. It doesn't have to be fully accurate. But basically you want to get to the point where you have email or live chat, select one of those options. And once you enter in the information and get going, like then you'll get connected to an agent. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. And I hope that we were able to help at least some people with their onboarding, their questions they have about their device and stuff. But if we didn't, bring it to the next session and we'll be happy to address it.